years ago, the Six-Day War broke out, and a U.S. Navy ship was in these waters. The Israelis attacked that ship. They killed and wounded over 200 American servicemen. The Israelis have learned that they can do pretty much whatever they want at no real cost.
In 1967, Israel waged war against its Arab neighbors, illegally occupying the West Bank, seen behind me, and the Gaza Strip. During that war, it attacked an American ship called the USS Liberty. And ever since the occupation of the Gaza Strip, it has prevented any maritime activity between Gaza and the outside world. This collective punishment on the people of Gaza increased dramatically in 2007, when Israel strengthened a blockade upon all of its borders. As a result, in 2010, the Freedom Flotilla attempted to break this blockade and reach Gaza with humanitarian aid. However, the Israeli Navy attacked the flotilla in international waters, killing 10 activists and wounding dozens. Now, had this attack taken place in regional Gazan waters, it still would have contravened international law. Yet the film you are about to see isn't about the illegality of this attack, but rather it is about how the victims were transformed into villains and how Israel acted with impunity once again. Israel's blockade on the more than 1.5 million people of the Gaza Strip has caused enormous suffering and has been characterized as a violation of international law by countless legal scholars and organizations.
The siege on Gaza has been in place now for over 2.5 years. Essentially, the siege restricts all items coming into Gaza. The situation at the moment is unbearable. Physically, the place is a complete mess. In terms of the infrastructure, there's no economy. 80% of the population are depending on handouts of food. The medical facilities are under massive strain. The water and sanitation situation is deplorable.
Almost 1,500 more Palestinians were killed in Israel's attack during December 2008 to January 2009. The blockade has been condemned by human rights organizations worldwide.
This is collective punishment in a tin. The factory that made this closed down 18 months ago when they ran out of the cans that they have in Gaza, that they had in store. They have 2 million shekels worth of cans in Israel, but they're not allowed to import them.
It's illegal under international law.
There were previous successful attempts to break the blockade, both by land and by sea. However, the Freedom Flotilla of 2010 was the first large-scale attempt by sea, involving hundreds of activists from dozens of countries. My name is Rifat Audeh, and I was aboard the flotilla's lead ship, the Mavi Marmara.
This mission, I want to stress that it's an international mission. It has nothing to do with what Israel says and the propaganda it says throughout the world. This cannot go into the 21st century. We cannot have such situation of an open-air prison in Gaza. 1.5 million people not having water to drink, not having basic things, not having houses to live in. We are determined that we will go through.
This is unacceptable. If we have a global society that preaches not only human rights, but also the right of people to move to the global flows of things, you cannot erect these sort of barriers and blocking a civilian population in Gaza from normal life.
I think this flotilla has the potential to be both historical and deeply powerful. It is really a symbol, I think, of people power, of civil society and grassroots mobilization in the face of the silence and complicity of our governments.
We are coming to Istanbul to join the convoy, flotilla convoy to Gaza, and we are representing a coalition of NGOs from Malaysia.
Mira, estoy artista y hace años que trabajo en un teatro a pensar cómo se puede cambiar el mundo.
Now we are going there to bring some more fun for Gaza, especially in the medical aspect.
I've met some people in Gaza the last time I was here, artists like myself. I'm a professional artist, so I'm very interested in seeing what the artists of Gaza have managed to do despite the bombing or because of the bombing.
So it's a grassroots organization. It's financed by ordinary people. It's ordinary working class women, men, elderly people, students.
أنا سعيد بأن أشترك في هذه القافلة. سعيد لأني مطران القدس، والمطران هو أب، وأنا محروم من مشاهدة أولادي منذ 32 سنة، يعني منذ خروجي من السجن أنا بعيد عن أولادي. فأنا سعيد أن أذهب إلى غزة لأضم أولادي اللي في غزة إلى قلبي، ومن خلالهم كل فلسطيني في الأراضي المحتلة.
Et puis on est très étonné, très surpris de voir la mobilisation ici en Turquie. Une mobilisation populaire, c'est ça qui est important, c'est vraiment une mobilisation populaire, c'est pas du gouvernement, c'est pas de l'État, c'est pas des gens qui sont derrière un bureau et qui font de la politique, c'est les gens ici qui se mobilisent.
I'm not afraid. I'm surprised myself that I'm not, but I think it's high time that things are put right.
Are you afraid?
No, I'm too excited to be afraid now. Don't know later, but now I'm just too excited.
I wouldn't say I'm afraid. I'm a little apprehensive. It's only life.
¿Tienes miedo?
Sí,
¿Por qué?
porque tengo miedo, tengo una familia, mi vida personal, no colectiva y...
Y aún así estás dispuesta a participar en la flotilla e intentar llegar abajo.
Sí.
Vale, gracias. Muy bien. Are you afraid?
No, we are very determined.
Well, I'm surprised with the Israeli overreaction. Why are they considering a peaceful humanitarian mission to be a national security threat? And hopefully Israel will rethink the matters and behave like a civilized and law-abiding nation according to civilized standards.
After we were inspected and cleared by the Turkish authorities, we were on our way and the atmosphere was jubilant. The other flotilla vessels were cleared by their countries of origin as well. We were to meet up in the Mediterranean with the other ships. Despite the fact that Israel was threatening us from even before we launched, our spirits remained high. I was filming throughout the trip and documenting developments.
Apparently the news is that the Israelis have expanded their area of military operations and military training. It seems that the excuse that they're going to try to use is that we are entering into a military zone, and that is the excuse that they would use for arresting us.
Having experience with the Free Gaza movement, I remember very, very vividly that the Israelis were threatening to stop that mission all the way up to the very moment that we left. They said we were nothing better than pirates and they would treat us as such. But the thing was, there were a lot of people watching around the world. Even though the West largely ignores it, there were millions and millions of people watching in other regions of the world. And they ended up not stopping it. Now this has a much larger scale. The Israelis are doing the same thing they did before Free Gaza. They're saying this, that, and the other, speaking very loud words, but I don't think they're going to do that at all.
there's nothing that they can do other than to let us in. Anything else that they do will smear their already pretty weak PR campaign that they have against this kind of a flotilla.
The bottom line is the Israelis, if they make a move on us, are going to hurt themselves more than they hurt us. And I firmly believe that we're actually going to go right on straight through.
Israel told the flotilla organizers to hand over our aid to them and that they would supposedly deliver it to Gaza. Yet our goal was to break this illegal blockade and highlight it to the world and not to appease the perpetrator. Naturally, this Israeli request was refused.
We have an absolute right in law to proceed direct to Gaza. We're equipped to do it, and we see no reason not to carry straight on with it. It does seem to me that Israel's behaving more and more like a psychotic patient in that they're perhaps making what they see as a reasonable offer in a world of their own imagining. It's not the world that we all live in.
On May 30th, Israel issued threats against us. As night fell, tensions started to rise.
The ship is not under their authority. The people have boarded the ship, as you saw, through customs area. Our baggage was checked through x-rays, and our passports were checked, and we are international passengers going to the area of Gaza, which is Palestine. Now, Israel as an occupying force does not have any right to stop us or to board us, even much more. It would be a flagrant violation of international law.
We don't really know what the Israelis are going to do. They've made very serious threats. They've said this convoy will not get through under any circumstances.
This has led the organizers to issue life jackets to all the passengers on board. It also led them to redirect or reroute the vessels. They say they do not want any form of confrontation with the Israeli army, especially not by night. So they have redirected the route of these vessels, hoping that they would avoid such a confrontation.
The Israelis earlier today extended their exclusion zone from 20 miles to 68 miles. Now, they have approached the convoy nonetheless, despite us being outside of that exclusion zone. We can visually see one significantly large Israeli warship, and there are 3 altogether on radar. I'm not sure whether this is an attempt to scare the convoy volunteers or whether this is a serious threat at this stage.
They are not pressing us, they are just coming closer and closer.
This is a message to the world. We are in international waters. We're 80 miles off the coast of Gaza, yet Israeli warships are threatening us. There are 2 that we're aware of on the radar. They are cutting the Turksat satellite system on and off to try and prevent the world knowing what Israel is preparing to do. This is against international law. We are on a peaceful humanitarian mission, delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza. We are calling on the world to take action to stop Israel from violating international law, allow us to get through in peace to Gaza and stop threatening us. Stop cutting the satellite, let the world know what is happening.
Indeed, one of our goals from even before our launch was to stay in constant communication with the rest of the world through the equipment and media on board.
We don't want to face the Israeli military, but the threat of them attacking us is there. So if we do have to face them, it is important to be properly equipped to be able to show the world what happens. The media will be very important at this point.
They have drones.
We also saw some sort of aircraft. It's not clear what type of aircraft, whether it was a helicopter or a drone, on the distance.
They are going towards us. One is behind the Daphne, and there are 3 coming this way, and there's 1 farther away, okay?
Nosotros creemos que es un auténtico disparate el atacar por la noche, porque podría ocasionar víctimas mortales, es algo que no queremos, somos pacifistas, y el pánico que podría cundir entre las cientos de personas que hay aquí ante un ataque de un ejército en un barco de estas características podría ser fatal. Hemos hecho un llamamiento por las redes sociales y por internet a que la ciudadanía despierte a sus políticos y que los pongan activo y que pasen la noche con nosotros, atentos a lo que pudiera pasar. De momento estamos retransmitiendo en directo vía satélite, se puede seguir por internet y creemos que es necesario que la comunidad internacional hoy no duerma esté con nosotros apoyándonos y, en el mejor de los casos, diciendo a sus políticos que tienen que actuar ya, ahora, ya.
The Israelis attacked under the cover of darkness, while many of us were conducting our morning prayers. I assisted in placing water hoses over the rails and spraying the Israeli soldiers with water to deter them from boarding the ship. They then came with helicopters.
Tutun birisi el yardım et.
I counted 8 commandos come down on ropes. The laser dots of the Israeli soldiers and their weaponry can be seen searching for targets.
पासपोर्ट मुझे दे मैं सेव करूं जैकेट को पासपोर्ट और पॉकेट वगैरह दे मैं उसको रैपिंग में करके टेप लगाऊं
Get me some water. أصيبت مصاب على هذا السطح وهم يطلقون النار من هذه الجهة من الجهة المقابلة للكاميرا. نعم إذن الوضع جد خطير هناك عدد من المصابين، عدد ربما من الصعب الآن حصره، ولكنه ربما 10 أو ربما أكثر من المصابين.
Soon, another helicopter was above me, and I counted 12 to 14 soldiers rappelling down.
We've had several injuries here. One is critical. He has been injured in the head. We think he may die if he does not receive medical treatment immediately. Another person being taken past behind in front of me right now has been seriously injured. We are being hit by tear gas, stun grenades. We have Navy ships on either side and helicopters overhead. We are being attacked from every single side.
It's now been confirmed that one person indeed has been killed by the Israeli army, which has been using live munition on these civilians. The ships remain in international waters, yet the Israeli army, together with a helicopter as well as naval ships, have surrounded the ship. All phones have been jammed, making it impossible to contact the outside world. They have tried to dismantle the satellite we are broadcasting from. However, this remains operational. The organizers are telling me now that they are raising a white flag. They are raising a white flag to the Israeli army. This is after one person has been killed, a civilian who was killed. Despite the white flag being raised, the Israeli army is still shooting, still firing live munitions.
هم يحاولون الآن الدخول. بليز with the camera here. يحاولون الدخول الآن الجنود المسلحون المدججون بالسلاح يحاولون الدخول من هنا. الآن نزلوا، هم هبطوا بالواقع على سطح السفينة، ومن ثم بدأوا إنزال على الأسطح السفلى من السفينة، ما أدى إلى إصابة العشرات، بينهم إصابات خطيرة، وأيضا هناك شهيد على متن هذه السفينة.
We tried to defend ourselves and protect our ship. But in the end, it was metal bars and broomsticks against guns and live ammunition. Despite this uneven battle, the heroic men of the Mavi Marmara captured a number of commandos.
Behold, 2 soldiers down here bleeding and wounded.
Although the passengers had just witnessed the Israeli soldiers killing and wounding their family and friends, these commandos were protected, provided with medical care, and then released back to their unit.
Assalamu alaikum, this is important announcement. This is from the captain. Please, all the brothers on Ihaha MV Marmara, go back to your cabin and sit on your seats. Stop your resistance. They are using live ammunition. We cannot protect ourselves.
The organizers on board the Mavi Marmara, after 2 people have been confirmed killed by the Israeli army, have now asked all the passengers to go inside. They've raised the white flag. This after Israeli commandos descended upon the ship in international water.
Important announcement, one more time. All the brothers on all the decks, we have lost the in control of the ship, please come down and take your seats. Come down and take your seats.
All the passengers are sitting down. We have no guns here. We are civilians taking care of injured people. Don't use violence. We need help for the people.
Şu an görebildiğimiz kadarıyla 4 tane şehit var. 4 kişi hayatını kaybetti. Diğer yani şehit sayısı artabilir çünkü birçok arkadaşımıza ulaşamıyoruz şu an. Ayrıca 20'ye yakında şu an bu katta yaralı var. Ağır yaralı 3-4 tane ağır yaralımız var. İsrail askerlerine yaralıları durumlarının kötü olduğunu söylediğimiz halde yaralıları almıyorlar, kabul etmiyorlar.
Despite Israel's best efforts to cover up its crimes, it still could not.
5 dakikalık falan kesintiden sonra teknisyen arkadaşların müdahalesiyle ikinci frekans üzerinden, yedek frekansımız üzerinden yayına geçtik.
Teknolojik anlamda çok büyük bir zaaf içerisindeydiler. Çünkü yayını kesemediler, yayını durduramadılar. Yedek frekansı bulamadılar.
Bilmiyoruz dünya bunları gördü mü görmedi mi? Frekans yedek planı girdik ama emin olamadık yani yayınlanıp yayınlanmadığından. Ve uydu telefonlarımızı da kestiler. Kimseyle haberleşemiyoruz.
In addition to these images broadcast, the footage smuggled off the ship by the Cultures of Resistance network also exposed the lies of Israeli spokespersons.
We did not want to confront these kind of passengers. We had no reason to confront this kind of organization.
Point A on this map shows where we were in international waters when the Israeli military attacked us. Point B shows the approximate location of the USS Liberty attacked by Israel in 1967, killing 34 American sailors on board and wounding more than 170. As can be clearly seen, when the Israelis attacked, they had come out towards us more than 70 miles in international waters. On the other hand, our position from well before our launch was very clear.
We are peaceful, we do not carry arms, we are activists and humanitarian people, and we do not want to have any kind of a confrontation, but we will protect our ships with our bodies.
Also, the UN Human Rights Council fact-finding mission stated in Article 114 of its report that live ammunition was used from the helicopter prior to the descent of soldiers.
Yani biz o anda bütün doktor olarak fikir oldu. Bunları öldürmek için geldiler. Vurduğu yerde hepsi öldürmek için.
قراصنة البحر الإسرائيليين ما جاءوا حتى ليسيطروا على سفينة مرمرة، لا، جاءوا ليقتلوا، وهذا ما يجب أن يفهمه العالم. جاءوا ليقتلوا وكان هذا هدفهم القتل.
Further, this video released by the Israeli army shows that a military operation was authorized as early as May 13th.
On May 12, the first General Staff Operation Plan was distributed, and on the following day, May 13th, the plan was authorized by the Chief of the General Staff. Preparation of IDF forces. The forces assigned to stop the flotilla included Navy boats, helicopters, with soldiers trained to rappel down ropes, and surveillance aircraft.
What do you think soldier is trained to? Soldier is trained to kill. He's not trained to stop demonstration. He is not trained to deal with civilians, with civil disobedience. He is especially commando troops. They are and they did their job. They killed.
So when the Israelis started their attack, I went out on deck and was able to see the initial attack on the Marmara. It was a full-on military assault on a civilian convoy, which honestly, all the times we had done this and all the violence I've seen from the Israeli military, I had not expected this.
when you saw the footage of the soldiers coming down the rope of the choppers, they didn't mean to target anyone. They didn't open fire. They tried to come down to the ship, politely approach the captain.
I'm sorry, I don't understand how in a pre-dawn raid, when you're being lowered by helicopters, you are politely requesting to talk with the captain. That is an aggressive act, and it happened in international waters.
Israel utilized numerous propaganda tactics against the flotilla, or rather, talking points that they distributed to their spokespeople. The first propaganda tactic was to assassinate the characters of the dead.
The hardcore extremists on the boat, as your previous piece showed, used violence.
These weren't pacifists, they weren't peace activists. These were violent supporters of terrorism.
People on this particular boat were 70 hired thugs from a radical Islamic organization that had sworn to the state.
But were the women and children also thugs?
Yeah, but they were not killed.
The youngest martyr was 19-year-old Furqan Dougan, who was also an American citizen. Furqan Dougan, who had 2 siblings, wanted to become a doctor. Yet this would not be the first time that America would allow Israel to act with impunity after killing one of its citizens. In addition to the 34 Americans killed by Israel aboard the USS Liberty in 1967, Rachel Corrie was deliberately crushed to death by an Israeli bulldozer driver in 2003.
It's ridiculous that my government supports this government.
The oldest martyr, at 61 years, was Ibrahim Bilgan. He was an electrical engineer from the city of Siirt and grew up as an orphan himself. He was married and was the father of 6 children. He established the first local TV station in his city and was well known in his community. Ali Haidar Bengi, a tradesman, was 39 years old. He was married and had 4 children. He established the Foundation of Rights and Freedoms for a Bright Future, an educational and cultural association, and was its president. Fakhri Yildiz was a firefighter and also had a small pastry shop. He was 43 years old and married with 4 children. 41-year-old Cengiz Akyüz was a craftsman in plasterwork. He was married and had 3 children. Necdet Yildirim was the second youngest martyr at 32 years old. He was a humanitarian aid worker, married, and had a 3-year-old daughter. Çetin Topçuoğlu, a retired civil servant and former Taekwondo champion, used to coach various athletic teams. He was volunteering at the Adana Humanitarian Relief Foundation and the Orphan Support Unit. He was 54 and married with 1 son. Cengiz Songur, who was 47, was married and had 7 children. He was a shopkeeper. Cevdet Kılıçlar, aged 38, was originally a journalist and then an aid worker. He was married with 2 children. 47-year-old Ugur Söylemez, a businessman, was married and had 3 children. The IHH organization, or İHA as it is known in Turkey, was also slandered by Israel.
The organizers are well known for their ties to global jihad, Al-Qaeda.
There was a provocation by extremists belonging to a Turkish extremist Islamic organization called IHH.
And on the Mavi Marmara, there was no humanitarian aid, just extremists.
The Turkish charity operates openly in Turkey. The Turkish government allows it to operate openly. The Turkish government would not encourage or allow for a Turkish organization that is affiliated with Al-Qaeda in any way to participate. I have significant doubts about the veracity of these reports of the intelligence that's being put out there. The sources for them often come from Israel, although they cite unnamed sources in other countries. The Turkish organization IHH was most recently active in Haiti helping with the earthquake relief in Haiti, working alongside American and European agencies, providing humanitarian assistance for the victims of Haiti. I don't think that American and European agencies would be working hand in hand with this Turkish organization if there were links to Al-Qaeda. I think this is part of the Israeli spin and propaganda that they're putting out there.
I had great confidence in IHH because I researched their background as an organization, and they work in humanitarian field in more than 127 countries, in looking after sanitation, education, psychosocial support, orphan sponsorship programs.
The Israeli forces would met with violent attack, including live ammunition and knives and trying to grab their weapons, and they were forced to use live ammunition to defend themselves.
As for the use of force, our soldiers had no choice but to defend themselves.
Our servicemen were under a very, very real threat, a very present threat, a threat of their lives, and under such circumstances, they are entitled to defend themselves.
Numerous sections in the UNHRC report state that there was no threat to the Israeli soldiers.
The first soldier I told you was beaten, the second and the third were already shot. How were they shot? The pistols of the soldiers were taken from them, 2 pistols. They opened fire and they shot the soldier.
They grabbed some pistols of the soldiers, and they emptied the magazines of these pistols.
We found some interesting things on board of the Mavi Marmara. For example, we found shells, empty shells, shells that were fired. But these are bullets that the IDF does not use. So one of the assumptions that we're looking into is the fact that they used some kind of guns or heavy weapons and threw it to the sea.
Unsurprisingly, the same UNHRC report calls the statements of Israeli officials inconsistent and contradictory regarding alleged firearms injuries to Israeli soldiers. Jawdat Kilichlar is seen here coming up the stairs in a well-lit area and holding only a camera. Israeli commandos from the deck above shot him dead between the eyes. Çetin Topçuoğlu, whose wife was also on the ship, kept going up the stairs and risking his own life to evacuate the wounded. The autopsy report shows that he too was shot from above in the head. Cengiz Songur was shot from above as well. He's seen here giving instructions to fellow passengers on how to use a gas mask. Anas Nayruh was near Cengiz when he fell.
طبعا خلال هذا الوقت كان بجانبي أخ تركي اسمه جنكيز سونغر. خلال هذا الهجوم تفاجأت وهو يسقط أمامي، فإذا هي برصاصة. أنا لم أتوقع في الحقيقة أنها رصاصة، ولكن عندما جئت هممت بحمله وطلبت طبعا مساعدة أخواننا من الأردن ومن تركيا ليساعدوني به. وجدت أنه بالفعل رصاصة. توقعت في البداية أنها من البحر، ولكن فيما بعد علمت أنها كانت من فوق، وكان هو بعيد عني 1 متر فقط، وكانت الطلقة في هذا المكان. لم تصل لمرحلة التفكير أو تفكير زملائي أنه يوجد هنا قتل، سوف يكون قتل حقيقي. وقمت بحمله إلى الداخل وقمت بالصراخ: أين الدكتور؟ أين الدكتور؟ دكتور buradan. وين الدكتور؟ دكتور وين؟ خلال هذا الهجوم كان جنود إسرائيليين طبعا في الطابق العلوي، وكان عملية تصفية للجرحى للأسف. يعني الشهيد فرقان تم تصفيته وهو جريح.
Furqan Dogan was filming the entire trip, and was actually filming at the time he was killed on the top deck. Most of his entry wounds were on the back of his body. Based on eyewitness testimony, this apparently was Furqan's execution. The soldiers seemed to be looking down at the ground and kicking someone. The soldier then loads his weapon aims it downward, and fires.
Her tarafta saldırı var. Herkes metin olsun, merak etmesin. Buradakileri...
Forensic evidence indicates this shot was in the face.
Yapacağımız her şeye bağlı. Şu an gaz bombası...
They then seem to kick him again.
طبعا بدأوا يستخدمون الرصاص الحي الآن. هناك جريح وهناك في الحقيقة أكثر.
Selamun aleyküm.
Eyewitnesses stated that Israeli soldiers also shot Ali Haidar Bengi at close range while he lay wounded on deck. Per the UNHRC report, Ibrahim Bilgan's wounds were consistent as initially being shot from the helicopter and then shot again while lying wounded. Nejdat Yildirim was shot twice, including once in the back. Fakhri Yildiz was shot numerous times in the chest and legs. Ugur Söylemez was shot in the head. He went into a coma and died 4 years later. The autopsy report of Cengiz Akyüz shows he was shot fatally in the back. I was able to visit the ship 1 year after the attack and retrace my steps. Israeli soldiers appeared on the deck above as shown and started firing at us. I was hit with a plastic bullet and jumped back to be protected by the roof. The soldiers restrained and blindfolded me over here and proceeded to inspect me, checking my pockets. They asked me one question only. Where is your mobile phone? It is clear they wanted to control the narrative in front of the rest of the world right from the start.
I talked to some of these soldiers. One was shot in the stomach, one was shot in the knee. They were going to be killed.
Of course, there was never any plan to kill anyone. No, not anyone, no one. Not the Israelis, nobody. We're not the killers, and we must keep ourselves in a high moral ground. We can defend ourselves, we can defend the ship. We may have to use aggressive force, non-lethal force to subdue these soldiers, but we must not kill them. So, you know, I was able to control myself, and clearly everybody else controlled themselves as well. The whole objective was to disarm him. That was it, to disarm him. By that point, I had already seen one dead body. We were successful in subduing him, and I did unlatch the pistol. I took it off of him. What I think is really important, very, very important, and the world must know this, is that there were 3 Israeli soldiers, or Israeli commandos, 3. We had totally disarmed them. We had brought them into the interior of the ship. I believe basic first aid was provided to some of them. But what's most important of all is that we had complete control of them. These Israeli commandos were no threat to us any longer. They had at least, I think, 100 brothers surrounding them inside of the ship. No commandos around. They were completely at our mercy. I looked into the eyes of all 3 of these soldiers, these commandos, and they definitely had the fear of God in them. I think that they looked at us like we were them.
في ديننا نحترم الأسرى. لا يجوز ضربه أو إهانته. فما أتذكر أنه كان بعض الأسرى يصرخون وكانوا يعني بحالة يرثى لها. كانوا يتوقعون أنهم سوف يقتلون وكانوا يعني بحالة هستيرية. فكنت قريب من الشدة منهم وفي الحقيقة راودني يعني بعض الأفكار أن أقوم بضربهم، لكن تذكرت ديننا بأننا نحترم الأسرى، فقمت حتى بحمايتهم وقلت للجميع هؤلاء أسرى لا يجوز ضربهم.
There was a lot of anger, you know, with dead bodies and injured people all over on a humanitarian mission, and these Israelis were completely in our control, and the decision was made to let them go.
وقام دكتور بتسليمهم.
I believe one of our brothers was shot in the process of putting the Israelis out on the bow of the ship so they could be returned to their comrades who were still attacking.
للأسف الجنود قابلوا هذا الإحسان وهذه المعاملة الطيبة بالإساءة فقاموا بضرب الطبيب الذي سلمهم هؤلاء الأسرى.
Additionally, although the loading of the ship's cargo was done out in the open, Israel tried to mislead the world, hinting that this humanitarian aid was supposedly weaponry.
Israel simply cannot permit the free flow of weapons and war materials to Hamas from the sea.
In the beginning of February 2010, initial information was received regarding a protest flotilla scheduled to sail in May, aimed allegedly to break the closure on the Gaza Strip. Continuous intelligence surveillance of the ships was carried out.
We got pictures of us. Challenger 2 came from the Israelis. All the members of Challenger 2 are the Israelis. Different ships, who's on them? Who to concentrate on?
During the month of May 2010, 8 ships sailed from Ireland, Turkey, and Greece. The ships didn't dock at any ports along the way and sailed directly to a designated meeting point south of Cyprus.
If the Israelis had us under surveillance since February 2010, and they knew that we didn't dock at any other ports, then they clearly knew that our cargo was humanitarian goods, that we were inspected, x-rayed, and cleared by the Turkish and other authorities, and that there was no way weapons could have gotten onto the ship since we didn't dock anywhere else. The fourth tactic was to make the claim that since nobody was killed on the other ships, the Muslim extremists aboard the Mavi Marmara must have been the problem. This is perhaps the most diabolic of the Israeli claims and propaganda techniques, because this actually indicates that lethal force was planned for the Mavi Marmara well in advance, with the justification prepared for these upcoming killings as well.
In 5 out of the 6 boats, we had no problem.
The 5 ships were peacefully directed toward Ashdod.
There were 6 interceptions yesterday, 6 interceptions, all done by the Israeli Navy. All 5 of them were done peacefully, without violence, without harm to soul, to people.
5 of the 6 ships in this flotilla were all taken without incident, without any casualties whatsoever.
While there were no fatalities on the other ships, the Israelis, who had blocked the satellite signal, the phones, and confiscated all our footage till this day to cover up their crimes, were still not able to prevent the passengers from smuggling out some footage comprising this documentary. This was from a camera that continued to roll aboard the Sfendoni ship.
Move! More of him! Move! Stop the fucking ship! Stop the fucking ship! Fascista! Fascisti! We are without weapons and you are full of weapons here.
Do you see?
You are violent, fascist, you are violent. People,
I'm not hip.
Shame on you!
On you!
Stop this shit! Stop! Stop! No, he's from Greece. Stop this shit!
Paul Larudi, the second from the right, was aboard the Sfendoni when it was attacked.
Everyone knows what happened on the Mavi Marmara. What happened on the other ships is perhaps less well known. I was not on the Mavi Marmara itself. I was on another boat, the Sfendoni, which left from Greece.
Huwaida Arraf was aboard another vessel called the Challenger.
They surrounded our ship. They threw concussion grenades on our boat, used tasers, and then boarded.
They beat us, and they One person had a broken bone that I know of. I don't know of any others that did, but there was bloodshed.
They beat many of us. Volunteer ended up with a bloody face. My head smashed against the deck of the boat.
The first beating I got was on the boat. The second beating was while when I was pulled out of the water. The third one was in the port.
They chanted battle cries against the Jews.
The participants on that ship, before boarding that ship, chanted death to the Jews, death to the Jews.
This wasn't a love boat. This was a hate boat.
So our point is that we are all brothers and sisters, whatever our religion, whatever our ethnicity, and whatever our culture.
وأن غزة ستحرر كذلك اليهود من أوهام الصهيونية لأن الصهاينة قد سجنوا اليهود وجعلوهم يقتنعون بأوهام تعود عليهم بالوبال.
We are all here with one goal in mind, and we are all brothers and sisters in humanity. Ever since the years of the days of our Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, he made sure that everybody, whatever their culture or religion was, were treated equally and were treated humanely, and everybody was treated as one family. And this is what we want to achieve here, and this is what we hope to achieve here.
نحن ضد الصهيونية ولسنا ضد اليهودية ولا اليهود. اليهودية دين نحترمه واليهود أخ عزيز لنا نحن ضد الصهيونية.
For anyone paying attention, Israeli actions were consistent with what was leaked and declared in the media before and after the attack.
I think that we're ready at any cost, as I mentioned, to prevent this provocation.
The particular ship that was encountered where the violent incident did occur was simply too large to stop by non-violent means, but the other ships were not.
But many Western media outlets fully supported the Israeli narrative.
And it sounds like Netanyahu on this point is right. These guys were ready to be killed on that ship. So what does the international community expect these soldiers to do in this situation?
Certainly, the IDF has video that shows their soldiers were being attacked.
What is clear from those videos, and there's videos available as well where you can see somebody, and it would appear to be the first soldier, as soon as he lands, he is being beaten.
What do you see in the video, though? I mean, you said that it was a peaceful situation, but they obviously had weapons. I mean, whether they were crude
they had
weapons.
deck chairs. A deck chair is not a weapon anyway. It's not a free
in the video we just saw, there were pipes. I mean, they look like, pipe sticks, whatever you want to call them, that they were hitting the soldiers.
The Israeli government, their first job is to defend their citizens. They are trying to defend their right to exist.
The Israeli Foreign Ministry was so happy with BBC's coverage of the attack on its Panorama program that it posted a BBC iPlayer link to it on its website, and even added a YouTube link for site visitors unable to access the BBC iPlayer. So what was the Israeli attitude after all of this?
There is nothing remotely legal about that. Perfectly legal, perfectly humane, and very responsible for the state of Israel to do such a thing.
Erdogan, the Turkish anti-Semite and the Jew hater and the terrorist.
I'm very happy what happened because it united the country and everything now, all the Israeli, all the Jewish, everybody united for a cause.
No English, I don't speak English, but I very love Israel and Turkey. Fuck off, Turkey. You speak bullshit.
Message for the Turkish people?
Yeah, go to hell!
So you're going to apologize to them? For what?
We will never apologize for defending ourselves.
I don't think that the force was excessive.
After the 2010 Freedom Flotilla, Israel unleashed its military machine on the people of Gaza in 2012 and again in 2014, killing more than 2,300 Palestinians, the vast majority civilians, including hundreds of children. All subsequent attempts to break the blockade by sea were stopped, with Israel arresting the activists aboard the vessels.